good friend Kirk Elliott. We have been talking about the economy, just as everybody else in the country. And in fact, President Donald Trump has made sure everybody in the world is talking about the economy. We have gone from Bidenomics, who set the table with massive inflationary spending and a catastrophe for America. And now we're in the Trump years. We just 50 days in. He wants tax cuts. He wants tariffs. He's getting the tariffs. We're going into a continuing resolution. Everybody's talking about recession, inflation, tariff wars in a brouhaha over all of this. So Biden set the table that we're eating at right now. Trump says he's not looking at the market, which I do want you to go over when we go over some of these articles that we're going to do. And so for me, because I don't feel like I don't just not feel, I know I'm not an expert in this, and you're a PhD in economics. First, let me just throw out this big question. Are the Trump policies good for America? And then we're going to go into some headlines.
The end result answer is yes, absolutely. It's going to be great for America. However, this is where so many people that call my office every single day, literally hundreds of people every single day, have a naive assumption that amazing businessman president, he's going to lower taxes, he's going to create jobs, he's going to make America great again, and it's going to be rainbows and lollipops and butterflies and unicorns all from day one. Not. It's going to take time. And as we talk about some of these news stories that you and I were talking about off the air, we're going to go over this exact thing and how they're actually saying that as well. It's not just me. It's not just my opinion. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, President Trump, they're all saying the same thing. It's like, this is going to be a little bit of an ugly patch for a bit. And here's my reason why before we get into the news. Ever since Ronald Reagan left office, which was in 1988, like, we've had presidents.
Those were such good years.
Oh my word, they were so good.
And
they lasted quite a long time because Reagan's policies were mimicked by both Bushes and Clinton. They lasted and then they kind of stopped, right? So they lasted easily 20 plus years. But here's where, ever since Reagan left office, we haven't had a pro-American president who actually cares about our country.
Why would you think anybody would object to that? Because
they got some Republicans in there, right?
Republican doesn't mean pro-America, America first. So I'm with you.
I know that, but I still get complaints whenever I say a comment like that because, well, what about the Republicans? It's like, what about them, right? They should call themselves, all of these people should call themselves the president of the world, not the president of the United States, because they cared more about the World Economic Forum and the IMF and all the World Health Organizations and these global non-governmental organizations. And what did they do? They were basically consumerists. That's what I would call them, because they were satisfied with Americans getting cheap stuff from overseas to make us happy to get votes. And in the meantime, jobs follow manufacturing, right, Elizabeth? So whoever's doing the manufacturing is going to have the jobs. They were exporting jobs as we were importing cheap junk from other countries. And so this is where Trump is a departure from that, and that he's the first president, really. Even Trump 1.0, Trump 2.0, same policies. This time they're just on steroids, right? He's really actually getting it done quick.
Yeah, we said this.
But yeah. So he's actually America first, not world first. And there's a huge difference, because what's good for America is not good for the world, which is why we're getting retaliation on tariffs and everything. But it's going to be great for America. But I want to, everybody is a harsh word,
okay,
but it is going to be ugly for a little patch.
And I want to pause there for a moment. This consumerism, the sort of keeping the barbarians or, the peons happy sort of like Rome, we can all go into the Colosseum and see lions rip people apart, and we won't notice that our entire empire is falling apart, right? And that's how they treat us, as if we're pawns or peons or what have you, serfs, and they're just trying to give us enough of something to feel good and be distracted by what is really happening. And I remember right after 9/11, when George Bush, they passed that huge spending bill, inflationary spending bill. These are absolutely done in order, for anything other than to really kick that economy kick it in gear and make it continue to go. But what he said, this is after 9/11, go out, buy washing machines, buy dryers, buy TVs. And I remember reading that thinking, is this our response to 9/11? That the solution is to tell Americans to go out and buy appliances and electronic equipment. Do you remember that?
That was the goal, and it created an anti-biblical economic system based on debt. Yeah, and we couldn't pay it back. Even founding fathers, Elizabeth, I can't remember which one it was, Jefferson or Hancock or somebody said, never, ever, ever, future generations, bring on any more debt than you can pay off during your lifetime, because it's not fair to future generations. Very common sense oriented approach, right? But that's not what they did. That's why we have $37 trillion worth of current debt. We've got over $100 trillion of unfunded future obligations that Congress has already passed. We've got multiple quadrillions of derivatives debt, which is just leverage debt. I mean, we built the entire economic system on debt. The only way that you can fix that is to create enough income to pay off the debt and then cut your spending like what the Doge team is doing. You can't just do one or the other. You have to do both. You have to slash expenses, you have to create revenue, and in time, you can get rid of that. But they encouraged, and I remember reading the first Harbinger book by Rabbi Kahn, right, where he talked about this, where he said this actually what they thought was building something beauty from ashes moment, rebuilding something bigger and stronger than what we had. It was actually a system that was completely built on debt. And that is not stronger. That doesn't have a solid foundation. But now that's 24 years later, this is what we've got.
It's a fantasy. It is a denial of reality because, it's a denial of reality. It's almost as if they've done to economics and trade and labor what they've done with transgender ideology to sex and sexuality and marriage and all these things. It's all a fantasy. We have 37 genders, and we're supposed to just agree to that, and we're so ignorant. Well, at least with gender, it was a little bit more easy for the average Joe like me to say, no, that's a girl, and it's not a man. But with the economy, and besides the fact that we can't ever stop them from doing what they do. And this is why Trump is so important, isn't it? Because no matter what he is being a tough nut, he is not going to let them win, because most Republicans would roll over. They want to continue down this road, but the medicine we have to take, they don't want to take the medicine, and they don't want to rebuild a proper economy that's not fake. So you were saying there's tough medicine.
Accurate. Tough medicine. And some of the stuff that we were talking about, this week, they're alluding to tough medicine. So Scott Bassett, I think he's probably starting out to be the best Treasury Secretary we've seen in this country. He's transparent. He speaks very well. He speaks in language that people can understand, and he's on the air all the time explaining, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And And so he said that America is about to go through a detox because of the unrelenting federal spending that they're now starting to cut. So here's what I'm thinking of that word. Every word has meaning. That when you read through the Bible, every word has meaning. When you're talking to and in a relationship, every word has meaning. And even when you're giving a list of things, the order of words have meaning, right? So words have meaning. So he said we're going through a detox. And detox is a pretty big word because I've gone through detoxes before because I don't like to take medicine. I can't stand it. If I don't have to, I won't. So I've done like these natural detoxes, liver and kidney detoxes and whatever. Well, fortunately for me, I didn't have to detox from some horrible drug addiction or alcohol or smoking or anything like that, right? But it was something equally as bad, I guess, caffeine, right? I was kind of addicted to Mountain Dew. Well, even just 3 days of a detox getting off of caffeine, I was grumpy, I was sweating, I had a splitting headache. It wasn't good, right?
And think if you were on heroin, what it would be like. And our economy...
it would be way worse.
Yeah. We're addicted to heroin.
We are. It's like, it's so bad. And mine was a mild thing, right? It was just caffeine. Imagine if it were something worse. Now imagine the economy having $37 trillion worth of debt, spending money willy-nilly that we don't have, like just spending like drunken sailors, right? It's like, but the way that we've spent money is actually a disrespect to drunken sailors. It just is so, because it's so bad. But here's where, whenever you want something good, there is going to be some element of pain involved. Like, if I wanted to get really big muscles, I'm going to go to the gym. It's going to be painful. It's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. If I were 50 pounds overweight and I needed to lose that 50 pounds, I'm going to have to go on a diet. It's not going to be pleasant, right? There's pain to get to where you want to go. Just like with this economy, we're going to get where we want to go because Trump doesn't give up. We've already seen that in the first 7 weeks or so. But there's going to be some pain involved, and they're letting us know. President Trump, President Musk,
Trump is
Scott
letting
Bessent,
us know.
Ludnick, they're all letting us know. We inherited a nightmare of an economy, and we're not going to get out of it real quickly, but it's not our issue. It's not our fault. We're going to get out of this as quick as we can. Be patient. But their words, not mine, are telling us that this is what we're going through.
Well, Trump, this is a CNBC article. Trump not even looking at the stock market, which I thought was very interesting, and I'd like you to comment on that. Probably because it's going to come down in the short term. Comment on that. Why is he not looking at the stock market?
So that article, I'm familiar with it. The gist of it is tariffs are going to be really good for America. I'm not even looking at the stock market right now because America is going to be great. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is I love country music, right? And there's this old song by Alison Krauss called "You Say It Best When You Say Nothing at All," right? So sometimes
I should probably
the
learn
words
that.
that are not said are more important than the words that are. So when they say when Trump says I'm not looking at the stock market right now, America is going to be great. What could he actually be saying? I think there's a dual meaning here. And that is the stock market's going to be ugly. Don't look at it right now. Right? I mean, I think that's what he's saying in that because it is so, right? I mean, prior to this recording, the stock market lost $1 trillion worth of value. The 4 days prior to that, the cryptocurrency markets lost massive amounts of money. It was an absolute blood, right? And that's after he had the crypto summit where they said we're going to have a strategic cryptocurrency reserve. And so shouldn't have cryptocurrency gone up? No, because people were mad that they're just going to use the cryptocurrency they already have and not sell it. They wanted to have systematic allocations into it so that it collapsed. The markets are collapsing, the stock market, because of the impact tariffs, and they think it's going to really negatively impact things.
But this is what's in the minds of traders, right? This is not a reality where Trump does a 25% tax on Mexico or Canada, and suddenly something really happens inside a company that tanks our economy. It's really people selling because they're anticipating things are going to get worse.
That's why people do anything. That's 100% true. I mean, you said it in a common sense way. If you're investing in anything, I don't care if it's real estate, a stock or bond, whatever, you buy it because you think it's going to go up in price over time. You sell it, A, because you need money, or B, because you think it's going to go down.
Right.
Only two reasons why you sell it.
So you want to be the first to sell and get out when it's higher. Yeah. And so people start selling, and then more people start selling. And
what we don't know right now is which one of those is the major fact, right? Is it that people really need money? Maybe, because Bidenomics stunk. I mean, they really stunk up the joint. They were awful, and we had rising inflation, rising prices, lowering wages, and rising unemployment. I mean, that's not a good combination for any. So maybe people just simply need money, or maybe they're seeing, wow, with these tariffs, they're listening to mainstream media, and most of the world listens to 30-second sound bites,
right?
And without doing any research, and think, wow, these tariffs that they're talking about on MSNBC and CNBC and CNN and all these other places and Fox News, this is going to be kind of bad for America, and it's going to cause prices to go up, and people aren't going to be able to afford to live. And so they sell everything because they think it's going to come down. So
is your interpretation of what Trump is saying and not saying, is it also partially, I heard this or read this, that in his first term, Trump used the stock market as sort of a bellwether, an indicator of his success. And that's what he was really looking at. But my question has been, and this is where I want you to help me, is that the best place to look? Firstly, if it goes up and down, are you going to change policies every time it goes up or down? Then you're just being reactionary instead of choosing the right course and riding through it. But also, the stock market is an indicator of what major corporations are doing and what those who buy and sell their stocks. But we can also look at, say, prices, inflation, monetary policy, spending inflation, which I'm just saying they go together, jobs, unemployment, or tariffs, or, balance of trade, or, things, marketing, manufacturing coming back. Tell me, flesh that out a little bit.
So I wouldn't use the stock market as a reflection of, economic success. I think it's faulty. So for the reason why the Dow Jones Industrial Average is 30 stocks. If you really want to goose the economy and you're a central bank or something, just throw money into, you don't even have to do those 30 stocks. Some of the really big stocks are so big and have so much market share that you could impact the entire index by probably just investing into 4 or 5 companies. And then it appears that the stock market's going up. Now, the NASDAQ, they've done that for years. It's like
they used to call it
manipulation. They used to call it the plunge protection team. They probably still do. But like even the NASDAQ, right? NVIDIA, like one of the largest companies in the world, the big companies have gotten so big that if you want to impact an index, all you have to do is invest into the highest weighted ones, and it impacts the whole index. So I wouldn't look at the stock market. I think
because
that's
it can be manipulated.
Yeah, I would look at to see if we're successful. How many jobs are actually being created? Are wages going up? Because ultimately, when people are making money, people are spending. Are they doing a good job on the flip side of that coin of reducing expenses? Start thinking about the national economy.
To me,
that's real. Envision the national economy as your family. Right? If you and Joseph were having financial problems, you're going to sit down at the dinner table and say, okay, how can we raise revenue and how can we cut expenses? So just apply that to the national government. How can they raise revenue? with tariffs. How can they cut expenses? Doing what Doge is doing. See, all that they're doing is the same thing that you would do at a family level. It's
Which
just
we've
on
been
a
yelling,
macro level.
excuse me for yelling over you. How many people have looked at a news story or news broadcast and said, wait a minute, I don't get this. If I did this, I'd be in prison. If I couldn't pass an audit, I would be shut down. If I didn't pay my taxes, I would, like IRS agents don't pay taxes half the time. But also, if I'm overspending and I'm going to go out of business, then I cut spending. Why doesn't the government do this? So I'd see a lot of people have been angry because we should be treating the federal economy and states the way we treat our household, our kitchen table economy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like talking about how some distant planet or some, galaxy is like 10,000 light years away. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? No, the numbers get so big that people can't comprehend them. But if you just took off like 20 zeros, it's like, okay, now it's the same as just a family, right? So take off like 8 or 9 zeros off of the $37 trillion debt, and you have 370,000. That's more of like a family income. So this is how you just start looking at it. It's like, what is my expenses compared to what we're earning? So like, look at your and Joseph's budget, right? It's like, okay, I'm making numbers up here. Let's just say you made $200,000 a year and you spent $50,000 a year. All right, you're a net $150,000 gain. Well, what if you made $200,000 a year and now you're actually spending $320,000 a year? It's like, right, we just added $120,000 worth of debt. We do this for a few years, we're never going to be able to pay it back. That's what the government does. Every single year, they're spending a couple $1 trillion more than what we make, and that's why we have a $37 trillion debt.
I love that illustration because, obviously people refer, like I just did, to, hey, let's take it down. Americans have to pay debt or they go into bankruptcy or they lose their jobs and their home. Not their jobs, their businesses and their homes, etc. So those are the rules we play by. Why can't they? But if you made a model of this $37 trillion in debt and the revenues, and you actually brought it down, like you said, reducing all those zeros and laid this out, what if this was your personal finance, your QuickBooks, for your home? People would see this and just say, this is insane. I'm making $350,000 or $370,000, whatever it is, a year, and I'm spending this much, millions over the $375,000 I'm making a year. You know what? We better get to these other headlines. So he's not looking at it. And what my question was in follow-up is it, oh, no, I already asked that. Cut that out, what I just said. Luckily, we're not live. So he says, he's being asked, is the stock market tanking because of tariffs? Should we pause tariffs? And he says, it has nothing to do with the market. I'm not even looking at the market because long-term, the United States will be very strong with what is happening here, which I guess we've already pretty much talked about. But I thought it was interesting that he said, I think it's globalists to see how rich our country is going to be, and they don't like it. Big market out there. But again, they've been ripping us off this country for years. And he says, we're not going to have, if we don't change anything, we're not going to have a country any longer.
You have to fix it. You can't continue to keep spending more than what we make year after year after year. We've done that since like 1913. Well, now we're at the point where we've hit the end of the road. We have to pay the piper. And this is why they have to do the extreme measures that a lot of people think are extreme. I would just say, well, this is normal. They should have done this decades ago, and cut waste, cut expenses. This is what any family would do. But now people are all in uproar. It's like, you can't do this. Even Amy Coney Barrett said, no, even though you cut some of these these expenses from USAID. You can't do that. You have to pay them. It's like, what in the world? We're trying to make America sustainable for the future, for future generations. If why should people get paid for weird stuff that has nothing to do with us? Why should, like in the speech that Trump made to the joint session of Congress, it was amazing when he started listing off all the garbage they were spending money. I think that exposed a lot. Remember that one? It's like,
of course.
I mean, tens of millions of dollars for some kind of an LGBTQ plus museum in Uganda or whatever it was, and all these different things. It's like a Sesame Street production in the Middle East somewhere. It's like, why are we paying for all this garbage? I mean, it should say, let's just cut all that junk and watch what starts to happening to our spending, right? So I look at this and I think this is very positive, not negative. Now, I do feel sad for people that are losing their jobs. Maybe they worked hard, but they worked for an agency that shouldn't actually really exist.
People lose jobs all the time.
All the time.
Nobody goes into national mourning when, my neighbor loses his job and 30 people over here lose a job, because they don't care when people lose their jobs and all those businesses that went out, the small businesses during COVID lockdowns and all the rest. But suddenly, we think, not suddenly, but we're supposed to believe that there is something holy about a government employee and that they are on a different threshold or plane than we are. If we lose our jobs, people say, well, buck up, go into your savings, use your credit cards, get another job, go on unemployment, give us some advice, but nobody's going into mourning. Let me ask you this, Kirk. You sponsor this show, and I really appreciate that very, very much because it helps WorldNetDaily. It helps keep the Elizabeth Farah show on, and we do very well. A lot of people really like our shows. Just I think day before yesterday, our show on making America beautiful again had 768,000 viewers on Rumble, and I was
incredible.
Yeah. And that's very, very consistent, 400 to 1 million. But it really helps if we have a sponsor, and you were the first to come to the table for me and sponsor this show. And when we go through these headlines, well, my question is for the audience, what does this mean for us in our investing, in our saving? Where do we put our money? We obviously know that you have Kirk Elliott precious metals, and that's why, we're talking about this. So tell me how all these headlines and what's going on with the tariffs and the stock market, how that helps us decide what to do with our money.
Yeah, well, every time you look at a chart, just picture of it, something's growing or something's shrinking. To me, it's just a chart. I don't really even care, because there's always a fundamental legislative action, administrative ruling, something that causes the chart to look like a chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last few days, you've seen the stock market come crashing down because of the impact that tariffs are going to have. People think there's not going to be enough money to go around. Prices are going to go up. They're not going to be able to even afford to invest. So these things come crashing down. Selling pressure. Conversely, gold and silver are going up, right? So because gold and silver act as a flight for safety vehicle during times of crisis, and people look for something that's stable and real, and they do really well during times like this. When gold and silver didn't do well was like during the Reagan years, when Reagan was creating jobs, the stock market was booming, real estate was booming because interest rates came down, the Berlin Wall came down, the Cold War was over. I mean, it was a renaissance time for America. Like you said earlier, it was really some great years, right?
Right.
So when people didn't need to look for anything other than normal traditional assets, they didn't do well. But I'd have to say, this is not one of those times. Even with the promise that Trump is going to fix the economy, it's going to be great, we're going to make America great again, we're going to create jobs, it's not going to happen overnight, right? So in this transition, other than preserve, grow, and thrive, I would allocate into physical gold and silver, especially silver. I wouldn't even do gold right now because silver is doing better.
Yeah.
And it's poised to do better because it's used in the manufacturing of the things that even the climate change and green agenda is using: electric vehicles, solar powered, nuclear. And then it helps with, all the wars and rumors of wars that we're seeing, right? You can't have a defense with missiles and torpedoes to defend our country from foreign acts of aggression when China is retaliating to to Trump's tariffs. What did they say? What did their economic minister say a couple days ago? He said, we're ready. If America wants to go to war with a tariff war, an economic war, or any war, we're ready. Like any war. Like those are some fighting words there, right?
So I'm ready to fight.
All of these things that I just mentioned, though, require a lot of silver, where we can take advantage of the trends. It's like the old words in Second Chronicles. I think it's like, you're going through all these groups of people and lineages and stuff like that. And every once in a while, God points somebody out. Right? And he said, and then there was the sons of Issachar who understood the times and knew what to do. That's my prayer for this generation, is we be like modern day sons and daughters of Issachar who understand the times and know what to do. We allocate into this strength. We allocate into the trends that you and I can't change and take advantage of them. And that's what gold and silver do in people's portfolios right now, whether it's an IRA, non-IRA, take delivery of it at home, store it someplace. We're talking about the physical assets. They do really, really, really well during times like.
And how long do you think these times are going to last? And I know you can't predict it because you don't know every decision and every reaction to every decision. But do you think it's going to be 6 months, maybe even a year?
So I think it's going to be more than 6 months, right? Because there's always a lag effect to policies being made. And even, one of the headlines that you and I were talking about, Scott Bessent had said, we've got this hangover effect from Bidenomics.
Yeah.
Meaning, I mean, fortunately for me, I've never had a hangover. People that have, and they're sick and they puke and they're not feeling good and they have a splitting headache. It's not a pleasant experience, right? So when he says we have a hangover effect from Biden's economy, we're dealing with the aftermath of his policies. All of this economic contraction, stock markets coming down, all this stuff that we're seeing is not because of Trump over the last 7 weeks. It's because of Biden over the last 4 years, right? And now this is what he inherited. So Bessent said, in 6 months, we will see Trump's economy.
I saw that.
6 months. So what is he not saying, right? When we're talking about what people say and what they don't say, what he didn't say is, okay, in 6 months, it's going to be Trump's economy. But what he should have added is, in that 6 months until then, it's going to be pretty nasty.
We're going to be hurt. So the prescription, what you're saying is when people want to allocate their money into various investments, that they should be looking at silver right now, because not only is it safe, not only is it growing, it's growing more in value than gold, but also part of that is because it's used in all of the major industries that are prevalent today, and military and electronics and all of these industries rely heavily, and solar, which I'm hoping eventually that bottoms out. We never hear the word again, solar and windmills. All right. Well, listen, this has been very interesting. I hope to have you on more frequently, because I'm not one that would just do a show on the economy. I mean, I read it, but I don't feel like I should be giving anybody